New reports claim U.S. intelligence officials are keeping sensitive information from President Trump over concerns of potential leaks, amid a deepening mistrust between the agencies and the American leader. Also this hour. Protests against police brutality erupt in France once again, following the alleged rape earlier this month of a 22-year-old black man by an officer. And refugees are back in the French port of Calais just months after the notorious jungle camp was dismantled, with reports that over 400 people have already returned to the town. RT went to meet them.
How old are you guys?
I'm 70.
You're 70? So you've been here for 1 month?
No, yeah, I stayed 3 months.
3 months.
Wherever you're tuning in from around the world this hour, welcome to Moscow and to RT International. I'm Ewan O'Neill. Good to have your company. There are fresh allegations that American spy officials have been keeping sensitive information from the U.S. president because they fear it could be leaked or compromised. The Wall Street Journal cites both current and former anonymous Washington officials who are concerned over Donald Trump's, quote, friendliness towards Moscow. Well, that's after claims his team had constant contact with Russia's intelligence community during the election campaign. Trump himself has called the U.S. intelligence leaks to the media un-American and stressed the illegality of spreading such information. Our Washington correspondent, Gaine Chichikan, looks at the battle unraveling.
The U.S. intelligence community seems to be after Donald Trump as unnamed sources from the community leak more and more information on the president and his team. The latest in a series of leaks has been the claim that some members of the Trump team had contacts with Russian intelligence before his election. Somewhat buried in the same New York Times story was these unnamed sources also saying that they had not seen any evidence of cooperation between these members and Russian officials. Whatever the case, the story has led to many insinuations, especially coming on the heels of leaks about Trump's now former National Security Advisor General Flynn's communications with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. Trump says what the leakers of classified information are doing is illegal. The president has also accused the intelligence services of interfering in domestic politics.
From intelligence, papers are being leaked, things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act, and it's been going on for a long time before me, but now it's really going on. And people are trying to cover up for a terrible loss that the Democrats had under Hillary Clinton.
Donald Trump blasted the intelligence community even before his election. More than once, he put the word intelligence in air quotes. He did it again in his latest tweet. Trump and his team seem to believe that the spy services have been trying to undermine him for a while. If that is the case, General Flynn's resignation may be their first victory. Trump's opponents are now cheering for the leakers and seem very willing to overlook the fact that leaking classified information is a crime under U.S. law, punishable by a fine, jail time of up to 10 years, or both. One glaring inconsistency is that some of the same people weren't at all cheering for those who leaked government secrets under the Obama administration. Think Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, and Julian Assange.
Let's look at Snowden here. Some might try to say that, oh, he's a great human rights crusader. He is not at all like the great human rights crusaders in the past.
Anyway, Trump's opposition seems to view the intelligence community leaks related to President Trump and his team as a completely different matter. The leader of the Senate Democrats even made an ominous prediction when over a month ago he said this about Trump's taking on those who work in the shadows.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
Now that hardly a day goes by without the intelligence making headlines with a leak on the Trump administration, that statement by Chuck Schumer sounds like prophecy. In Washington, I'm Ganesh Chekyan, RT.
Well, it's also been reported that communication between former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and a Russian official in the U.S. was intercepted by European intelligence services. However, that's also according to sources who reported it to the media on condition of anonymity. Well, we spoke to former intelligence officials. They believe the U.S. agencies wield too much power.
Well, I hope what it happens is that the president starts to clean up the intelligence community for being, so corrupt and politicized, basically. You need to have a professional, disciplined intelligence process that will produce intelligence for the decision makers to make decisions. You can't have them do things for political reasons, like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq or the Tonkin Gulf affair in Vietnam. Things that didn't happen were claimed to have happened or to be there, and that caused a lot of conflict and war and a lot of people getting killed. You can't afford to have that happen.
It really is, I think, in this case, a clash of the titans. It's a heavyweight fight, bare-knuckle fight. And yet the people who are actually briefing against President Trump, which is unconscionable if you think about it, surely are by the very definition committing treason. So it is flagrant hypocrisy. Very few presidents ever try and take on the American intelligence community, although, of course, they should have, because they have been flagrantly breaching the terms of the Constitution, as we know from Edward Snowden, for over a decade now. So, yes, they should be held to account. And Donald Trump did say, before he was actually even elected, that if he were elected, he would clean out the CIA. He would replace the leadership. He said that they were too politicised, too close to the government. And, of course, that very closeness and that politicisation had led them to make some appalling errors.
Well, the fallout of Michael Flynn's resignation has been all over the mainstream media. But they seemed unsure exactly why the now former National Security Advisor had to resign.
So it sounds like you think the issue is the leaking, not the constant contact, as it was described by CNN and the New York Times, with Russian operatives.
Well, I think that if this is constant contact, I'd like to see some evidence.
And as Emily Sue reports, evidence seems to be the last thing on the media's radar, especially when it comes to a new Trump scandal.
Russia, Russia, Russia. No matter how vague, no matter how empty, as long as you put this magic word next to Trump, it's gold, at least for some U.S. mainstream media. This sensational headline was published by the New York Times on Wednesday. Citing unnamed officials, the authors admit they have no idea what was actually said in these supposed phone calls between Trump aides and Russian intelligence officials. They also got no evidence to prove any colluding between Trump and Russia. But hey, don't know, don't care. Trump's there, Russia's there, boom, damage done. Within an hour, CNN cited their own anonymous sources claiming the same thing.
High-level advisors close to then presidential nominee Donald Trump were in constant communication during the campaign with Russians known to U.S. intelligence. This is according to multiple current and former intelligence, law enforcement, and administration officials.
If you're not sure, that's fine, as long as you throw in the words allegedly or reportedly. It's all good. But it wasn't these Trump campaign aides that took the biggest hit. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn gave up his job because of his ties with Russia.
This isn't just sort of a casual violation of the Logan Act. This is sort of a direct and, maybe even treasonous activity.
He just decided to call the Russians up one day and say, we're going to have a different deal on sanctions. Don't worry about it.
Whoa, criminal phone call with Russians. Wait a minute. Was that the reason he quit?
Whether or not he actually misled the vice president was the issue. And that was ultimately what led to the president asking for and accepting the resignation of General Flynn. That's it, pure and simple.
If you think their clarification is enough to stop mainstream media from spinning the Russia mill, think again.
I didn't speak to Russian officials during the campaign. And what Trump and Trump's officials seem to have done instead here was have regular contact with them over the course of the campaign. That's what's so unusual about it.
People are just repeating this, and they don't know why. They say, Russia, Russia did it, Russia. Flynn was talking to the Russian ambassador. And without thinking, more people than you can imagine are repeating this sense of sabotage. Russians lurking about. You could say the Russians. You could have said the Italians or the Vatican. It could have been anything else, because there is such a frothing hatred for everything that is Trump. The mainstream media hate him because he is shaking up the status quo. He wants to change everything. Do you know what happens if all of a sudden somebody were to remove Russophobia? What this does to the defense industry? If you remove a potential boogeyman, if you were to change the climate of fear, what this means?
Paris has been hit by fresh riots, with hundreds rallying against police brutality, which they claim is fueled by racism. Angry demonstrators set off flares and chanted slogans at officers. Well, the unrest follows an alleged incident that happened 2 weeks back. A 22-year-old black man was stopped for an ID check before he claims being brutally raped with a baton by 4 policemen. One of the officers was charged with rape, but his lawyer later claimed it happened by accident. RT Charlotte Dubinsky has been following the latest protests in Paris.
It's the elephant in the room in France: race. Society here is divided. But denial of tensions is creating even bigger problems. And they're coming to a head once again.
It's a political problem, and we should find a common solution.
Smile works for the police union, but has asked us to conceal his identity.
There's an identity crisis, and no one can deny this observation. There's an identity crisis that's still developing. We can see how certain communities are becoming increasingly detached and isolated, predominantly in those suburbs. We have to carry out serious educational work and instill French values in these areas. We should work with the state institutions, representatives of syndicates and other associations to find a solution.
These latest protests were ignited 2 weeks ago when a young black man was subjected to a routine ID check. What happened, though, left him in need of emergency surgery for internal injuries. He's accused the police of rape and racial abuse.
These claims have picked at the scab of an old wound here in France, one of police brutality, with officers being accused of using excessive force in poorer neighbourhoods, particularly against young men from ethnic minority backgrounds.
It's more than a decade on from the violence that swept through France in 2005 over police brutality. But protesters say things still haven't improved.
We create this situation all over the world. There is racism, inequality, police brutality. This is not okay. We're in the country of human rights, but who cares about human rights?
This behavior seems so unfair to me, racist towards the population. I think that this behavior is condemned by the government constantly, but nothing is really done to change how certain police officers act. I think politicians should do more about it.
What the police have done is a huge abuse of power.
From his hospital bed, Theo has called for calm, but the protesters aren't listening. Authorities now fear escalation as the outrage over Theo's case continues to spread across the country. Charlotte Dubinsky, RT, Paris.
Well, French authorities have placed huge boulders in a makeshift migrant camp in the city to stop refugees settling there. That's according to activists. The camp is near an official refugee centre, which is struggling to cope with the number of newcomers. Since the infamous Calais jungle camp was dismantled in October, Paris has witnessed an influx of migrants. RT's Harry Fear witnessed the desolation in the Calais port town last year.
Take a look around. It looks like a bomb has hit this part of the Calais camp. It was just weeks ago that there were shops here, and just days ago that they were flogging what was left of their stock at bargain prices.
Well, migrants have started returning to Calais, just months after Europe's largest makeshift camp was torn apart by the French government. More than 400 refugees have reportedly made their way there. Harry Fear again has the story.
Just 4 months after the historic clearance operation, and as was always expected, a small number have returned to the Calais region, still with their sights on entering the UK, perhaps even continuing their operations to get on board those lorries and smuggle themselves into the UK. What was always less likely, though, was that they would be returning here so soon, in such fast-growing numbers, and just a couple of minutes down the road from the old camp.
We hadn't guessed an easy search would be all it would take to find members of Calais' new migrant population. Kitted with sleeping bags and water, around 40 people spent a bitingly cold night here beside an industrial estate. The police kept a watchful eye from a distance. By day, it's a mission to find any migrants to speak to, but out in the wilderness, you can spot some unusual campers. These 7 are from Eritrea.
So you've been here for 1 month?
No, I stay 3 months.
3 months.
It's different.
Different.
We come different way, in different time.
How old are you guys?
I am 70.
You were 17?
70. 16.
60?
17.
It's thought most of today's Calais migrants are minors. Many are sleeping rough beside highways. The official police policy is that there are no squats or camps to be allowed in Calais. But in recent years, the migrant flow to Calais has never really stopped. And now some charities estimate there are as many as 400 to 500 here again, scattered across the region, which is a concern for some of Calais' residents.
We knew very well that they would come back. Many people said that they had left for winter to find something else, but we all knew that they would eventually come back. We're not surprised at all. There is no solution coming from the state.
We do not want them to stay in Calais. Calais has suffered a lot. Our small business suffered a lot.
They don't bother me personally. I don't see a lot of migrants. It is true that we should help them, but I don't think we have all the necessary facilities.
I'm not surprised that they came back. It is a transfer point to enter the UK, but it's creating problems in Calais.
Calais' migrant problem isn't going away, even with the jungle now dismantled, and many will want to see the authorities take steps to effectively address the problem. Reporting for RT, I'm Harry Fear.
Well, we spoke to the Deputy Mayor of Calais about the return of migrants to the former jungle camp.
The police is arresting them when, of course, they are caught. Some of them have got refugees document, but they still want to go to England. If they are arrested, for the ones having no paperwork, they are sent to either specialized centers like the other ones in October, and the other ones have to remain free because they've got documents. They are on the street, and they try during another night to go in a truck again to get to England. The English government is doing more to put fences and walls in the Calais area. Is that enough? It's not. Those people coming from anywhere have gone through a lot of borders, a lot of walls. They've gone through the Mediterranean Sea. Do you think only wall and fences 30 kilometers away from the target will be enough? We concentrate in Calais and in the Calais area, the European crisis of immigration. We've never seen anybody coming. The European Commissioner came because Theresa May was coming, because the French, Mr. Valls on that time, the French Prime Minister was coming, and because the Home Affairs Minister was coming. He came there, 1 hour, and he's gone. What does he know about the situation?
The news continues right after this.
People with stories to tell. Those who deserve to be heard. Studied inside out, but still with unrevealed secrets. Leaders, politicians, thinkers, and witnesses. They're here to speak. Are you there to hear?
Hello again. 2/3 of Germans want a new chancellor. That's according to a recent poll. The YouGov survey comes 7 months ahead of the country's federal elections. People in Germany were asked if they wanted to have a new leader after 12 years under Angela Merkel. The majority voted for a change. The popularity of the chancellor has plummeted in recent years. She was widely criticised for her open-door migrant policy and for being reluctant to change course. Her policies also gave rise to non-mainstream parties, such as the Alternative for Germany, the AfD. Last week, German magazine Der Spiegel released an edition with Merkel on its cover, alongside Martin Schulz, the former European Parliament president, who will run for the post of Chancellor in September. It poses the question, will she fall? Well, we discussed Angela Merkel's position with Alexander Neu from the Left Party and Götz Fromming from Alternative for Germany.
For me, actually, it's not such a surprise. People were looking for an escape out of the system, and now they have a kind of an escape and think Mr. Schulz could be an alternative.
Ms. Merkel is now reigning more than 12 years Germany, and people are fed up with her face. They want to see another face as Chancellor. And Mr. Schulz from Social Democrats is somebody new for the German public. But I think it's a bit of a problem, because a new face doesn't mean a new politics. This is not enough. We need a completely another politics in Germany.
We are criticizing Mrs. Merkel for a long time, not only because of what she did, that also, but because she is not explaining what she does.
She has a lot of resistance in her own party. She needs, for her electoral, she needs to go another course, not to lose the election in September 2017.
I think this is just a kind of tactic, and she wants to keep voters on her side, and she's promising something, and she will do the opposite if she gets in power again.
Many political parties in Germany are looking what is going on and taking over the political positions from AfD. So it is a big problem in Germany. We see something like a slide to the right side in German politics. We have a completely, how to say, contaminated atmosphere in Germany because of this refugee situation and the right wing who are benefiting from this refugee situation.
Our party, the Alternative of Germany, is a kind of reaction to the problems. If Merkel and also Mr. Schulz and the EU would have done the right things, there would be no party as mine.
Next year, Russia will host its first ever FIFA World Cup, the biggest single-event sports competition on the planet. And behind the scenes, local and foreign volunteers are working to try and make the football tournament all a huge success. The latter have been describing their experience of living in Russia and gave some advice for those coming to watch the showcase unfold.
В окопах, друзья, тишина на крутом берегу.
Мороз, религия, борщ, солидарность, парикмахерская, великая, ум, водка. Это была давняя мечта. Говорили много о полете Юрия Гагарина. Конечно, я мечтал, думаю, надо, как русские люди туда поехали, полетели.
Ну, потому что из рано детства я всегда смотрел по телевизору русский хор Красной Армии. Мне интересно, почему так люди одевают как солдаты и поют, так это все так бывает.
To speak as громко as possible and articulate.
Не стесняйтесь.
Привет,
Меня зовут Damia.
Шля Саша Поршесе.
When you're in the shower, try to sing as well. Ахарба, ты мой ярба, ты мое призвание.
Я думаю, что музыка очень поможет, на самом деле.
Моя любовь на 5-м этаже, почти где луна.
Мне очень нравится Виктор Цой. Я нашел просто в интернете русскую музыку, и Виктор Цой сразу.
Не прошло и полгода, как я жил в России, и сразу меня стали учить петь по-русски. В этом зале пустом мы танцуем вдвоем, так скажите хоть слово.
Ё-моё, вот это да, ничего себе.
Я всегда всем сказал привет. Нет, ты не можешь всем сказать привет, надо здравствуй. Я думал, блин, это очень сложно. Здравствуйте.
Надо сказать, что я потом жил и в Перу, жил в Швейцарии, в Испании. Нигде я не находил эту жилку, которая называется «сообразительность».
Don't drink too much.
Ты познакомить новыми людьми.
Try banya. Banya is great. And try blini. It's вкусно.
Но в этой стране есть искреннее отношение между людьми.
Потом, когда возвращаетесь, будете рассказы, как все хорошо, как там хорошо.
А я в Россию домой хочу. Я так давно не видел маму.
Some great advice being dished out. Up next, Worlds Apart with Oksana Boyko. Stay with us.